Here's something that sounds wrong. The naked, furless human body is one of the best heat survival machines evolution ever built. Better than a lion, better than a horse. We didn't beat the heat by hiding from it. We used it as a weapon. While every other animal collapsed in the midday sun, our ancestors were just getting started. So how did the weak, hairless ape become the desert's apex survivor? Let's start with why this should have been impossible. Your body is a furnace that never shuts off. Even sitting still, you generate heat, and you have to dump it somewhere or you cook. Push your core temperature up just a few degrees, past about 40 degrees Celsius, and your organs start to fail. Severe heat stroke can kill you in under half an hour. And of every organ you've got, the brain is the most fragile. Let it overheat, and you stop thinking clearly long before you stop breathing. And heat has a second way to kill you. It dries you out. In real heat, you can sweat away more water than you could ever drink, and once you're a few liters down, your blood thickens, your heart labors, and your thinking goes soft. In open desert, a person with no water has days at the most, sometimes only hours. Now picture where we come from. Open African grassland, full sun, no shade for miles. Most animals out there have a plan for that. A lion finds a tree and sleeps through the worst of it. A camel banks water and lets its own temperature swing. A reindeer just walks somewhere cooler. We had none of that. No fur to shade us, no hump to store water. We can't pant like a dog. By the logic of every other species, the soft pink ape should have been the first thing to drop. Except it's the opposite. The exact things that look like weakness, no fur, upright, soft, turned out to be the most advanced cooling system on the savanna. Here's how it actually works. It starts with sweat. You have somewhere around 2 million sweat glands spread across your skin, and on a hot day, they can pour out more than a liter of water every hour. That sweat sits on your skin, evaporates, and drags the heat straight off your body as it goes. It's evaporative cooling, the same trick as a wet towel on the back of your neck, running across your entire body at once. Almost nothing else on Earth does this well. A dog pants, which cools it a little, but it can't pant and run hard at the same time for long. A horse sweats, but not like us. We are the sweatiest animal alive, and for most of history that felt like a flaw. Out on the savanna, it was a superpower, and it works best on bare skin. Somewhere over 1 million years ago, our ancestors lost most of their body hair, and the leading theory is simple. Hair traps heat. Bare skin lets sweat evaporate. We didn't lose our fur by accident. We traded it for a radiator. Then there's the way we stand. In the 1980s, biologist Peter Wheeler ran the numbers on what being upright actually does to a body in the sun. Standing on 2 legs, only a small slice of you, your head and shoulders, takes the full midday sun, instead of a whole back broiling like a 4-legged animal. And up off the ground, you catch the breeze, where the air is cooler and moving. Walking upright didn't just free our hands. It lifted our brains out of the hottest air on the planet and pointed our smallest surface at the sun. But here's where it gets interesting, because we didn't just tolerate the heat. We learned to use it. In 2004, researchers Daniel Lieberman and Lieberman Bramble published an idea that reframed the entire human body. They argued we evolved to be endurance runners, not fast, but tireless. And the hunting strategy that falls out of that is brutal in its patience. It's called persistence hunting. Pick the hottest part of the day, the hours every other predator is asleep in the shade. Find an animal far faster than you, an antelope, a kudu, and just start jogging after it. It sprints away and vanishes. You don't chase, you follow. You track it down and push it back into the open sun again and again. The animal can't sweat the way you can. It cools itself by resting in shade, and you never let it rest. After a few hours of this, it overheats, staggers, and drops. Then you walk up and take it. Sand hunters in the Kalahari were still doing exactly this within living memory. Think about what that means. The midday heat that should have killed us became the one weapon no faster, stronger animal could survive. We didn't outrun our prey. We outsuffered it. No claws, no fangs, no speed. Just sweat and stubbornness, and a whole planet's worth of midday heat working for us instead of against us. The body kept tuning itself too. Anthropologist Nina Jablonski has spent her career on why our skin is the color it is, and the answer is the sun. Under that much ultraviolet light, dark, melanin-rich skin shields the body from radiation damage. It wasn't decoration, it was sunscreen built into the skin over thousands of generations. Shape mattered as well. Look at people whose ancestors lived in the hottest open places on Earth. Tall, long-limbed, lean. A long, thin body has more surface to shed heat from, like a radiator with more fins. Compare that to people from the far cold north, who tend to be stockier and rounder to hold heat in. Same species, two opposite answers, written into the proportions of the body by the place it had to survive. And then we did what humans always do. We outsmarted the problem. But biology can only take you so far. The single smartest move our ancestors made against the heat wasn't written into their bodies at all. It was a trick so backwards that most people, even today, would do the exact opposite and suffer for it. Here it is. In the most brutal deserts on Earth, people don't strip down. They cover up, loose, flowing robes from head to foot. In 1980, scientists actually tested this on the black robes worn by Bedouin in the desert and found something strange. The dark cloth soaks up more heat, but it never reaches the skin. The loose fabric traps a layer of air, your sweat evaporates underneath it, and the whole thing works like a chimney, pulling hot air up and out. Bare skin bakes in direct sun. A loose robe is portable shade with its own airflow. The rest was timing and discipline. You don't work at noon, you move at dawn and at dusk, rest through the worst hours, and let the cool of the night do half your traveling for you. You build your shelter facing away from the sun, dig down into the cooler earth, find the one patch of shade, and own it. None of it required technology. It required paying attention and not being stupid in the heat, which, in a desert, is the entire game. But the real weapon, the one that actually carried us across deserts that should have been death sentences, was each other. Specifically, it was memory. Shared, spoken, passed down. In a desert, water isn't everywhere. It's a handful of secret places, and if you don't know where they are, you die in the gap between them. So people remembered. They built a map in their heads of every spring, every soak, every spot where you could dig and hit water, and they taught it to their children the way we teach the alphabet. Nowhere shows this better than Australia. Aboriginal peoples have lived in some of the driest country on the planet for tens of thousands of years. At a desert rock shelter called Puritjarra, in the red center of the continent, the trace of people goes back more than 30,000 years. They lasted not because the desert was kind, but because the knowledge ran deep. Which soaks held water after rain, which roots you could squeeze a mouthful from, where the hidden wells were. That information was the line between living and dying, and it survived inside stories, songs, and the people who carried them. They even planned ahead for the ones who came after them. At a site in South Africa called Diepkloof, archaeologists found pieces of ostrich-eggshell carefully worked into water flasks and engraved with patterns around 60,000 years old. Desert peoples filled shells like these with water, sealed them, and buried them along the routes they walked, leaving full caches in the sand for the next journey, or the next person. No single human could outsurvive a desert, but a chain of humans sharing one enormous map of where the water hides could live in a place that kills almost everything else. We didn't beat the heat alone, we beat it together, across generations. And then, slowly, we changed the game entirely. We learned to dig wells instead of memorizing springs. We cut channels to carry water across dry land, raised thick walls to hold out the day, built towers to catch the wind. Comfort that used to live in your head as hard-won knowledge started living in the structures around you instead. And a few thousand years later, nothing on this timeline, we put a box in the wall, flipped a switch, and made the air itself obey us. Which brings it back to you. Right now, if it gets too hot, you press a button and the room turns cold. You don't think about the spring 3 days walk away because there isn't one. There's a tap. You've never had to read the sky, ration your own sweat, or remember where the water hides. The single deadliest thing your ancestors faced for hundreds of thousands of years, the thing that shaped your skin and your sweat glands and the way you stand, is now something you grumble about on the walk from the car to the front door. But every one of those ancestors made it through. Every single one survived long enough to pass life down the line to you. You are the end of an unbroken chain of people who stared down a sun that wanted them dead and worked out how to win, with a wet skin, a steady jog, a loose robe, and a memory of where the water was. If you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of person I make these for. Subscribe, and we'll go find the next one together. We didn't escape the heat by being stronger than it. We escaped it by sweating, by sharing, and by remembering. And then we beat it so completely that we forgot it was ever a war, and traded the memory of how we won for a button on the wall.